Okay, beautiful people, we're going to try again. Some days are just like this, right? Good evening, good evening. It is Kathy from Carolina Art Parties, coming to you this Friday evening with the usual technical difficulties, trying to figure out why I am sideways. Well, I'm just going with it because, until I have somebody that can explain it to me in person, I think we're just going to be upside down. What I'm going to try to do is turn it so that it is facing you. Let's see what happens if I turn it this way. I think that's going to make it upside down. Yep, let's try that completely the reverse. Ooh, ready to get dizzy? Are you ready to get dizzy? Let's get dizzy. And I'm going to try and move this up just a bit in the hopes that we can get a little bit more in the screen. Let's see if that helps. And my crazy lights, but I don't know if they're a little bit of help or no help at all sometimes. But there we go. Alrighty. Hello, hello. Is anybody home tonight? Anybody home tonight? It's Friday night, September 10th, and I would imagine that lots and lots of you guys have other things going on. It's been a long week around here with the kids home from school, doing virtual school. My goodness. Give me good old-fashioned homeschool any day. It was a whole lot easier. Okay. I don't know why I can't seem to get the hang of this, but hey, it is what it is. I have a pile of stuff here that I'm going to try to turn into a nice cover for a fall themed journal. And I had shown the other evening some of the pieces that I had kind of left over from last year and pre-mades. And I found this little one I thought was kind of pretty. I may use that on the cover. I've gotten to where I like covering my my covers with a piece of fabric. And by itself, this fabric is not real pretty, but I think it's got that olive green and burgundy and some cream colors in it, which kind of go along with the fall theme. I may add some cream color to the spine, but before I can do any of that, we need to create the cover itself. What I have here is a pile of cereal box cardboard. In case you don't know, you can take a regular cereal box and just open it up. I like to make my covers pretty sturdy because I really stuff my journals, so I double them. So you open it up, you cut off, don't use your sewing scissors for this part, guys. I almost did that one time. Cut off all these top flaps, and you could use a rotary cutter for this if you would like. I find it's not too bad to cut right through these the end pieces. I'm not worried about being exactly on the line because it's going to get cut again down to size. But let me just get rid of all these little pieces. I do not need those. Somebody might use them for something, but that's not something that I hold on to. So there they go. All right. I'm also going to cut off the end flap over here. It's just a little piece that was turned up and glued. Oops. Come on, scissors. I was looking up at the screen to see if you can see what I'm doing. You have to look at what you're doing when you're cutting, guys. Okay? I recommend it highly. Now, occasionally I have taken a cereal box at this point, and this is the side that was not glued together. And this is obviously the front and back of the box. Once I cut off this last flap, you can, if you want to, oops, use this part to create your spine because it's already attached. However, there's a couple of, I guess, negatives or possible negatives. This may or may not be the width of spine that you want, and it might not be easy to double it if you're like me and you want to make your spine thicker. So a lot of times I will go ahead and cut it apart, because unless I have two cereal boxes that are identical, they're not going to line up real easily. So even though I may use this to create a spine, I'm not going to leave it on for now. And I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so all that's left that I'm going to use from this box is the front and back of the box, these two pieces, and the two pieces that were on either side of the box. These two pieces will become part of the spine, and these two pieces will become part of the back and front. I have here a pile of other boxes that I've already cut. Sometimes I just get them cut ahead of time and store them. I just kind of wanted to show you. If you don't have a lot of cereal in the house, you can use other boxes. Just make sure they don't have any food on them. My grandkids live with us, and we do go through a bit of cereal. So it's not usually a problem for me to come up with several cereal boxes. You can also use book board or chipboard. If you have a lot of shirts or something that go to the cleaners, the boards that come back from the cleaners, I've heard they can work pretty good. It's just up to you. Let me see, this is Frosted Flakes. Not that it matters, but I think I will try and use these pieces. Okay, I'm going to put my spine pieces aside for a minute. And the first thing I need to do is I need to get these cut to the right size. My typical journals are about 6.25 by 9. And that's because when I make the pages, let me grab a page here real quick. Oops, let's grab one that's not already cut. Sorry about that. Well, here's an example. Here's a tea stained piece of just copy paper. And that tea stained copy paper, of course, is, and I know there can be a little variation in this. This is about 8.5 by 11. And when I fold it like this in half to make it fit into a signature, which is the way it's going to go into the book, it's going to be about 8.5 tall by 5.5 wide. So I want my cover to be a little larger than that. So to accommodate the 8.5 inch height, I'm going to make my journal cover 9 inches tall. And to accommodate the 5.5 inch width, I'm going to make it 6 inches. I do like to add a lot of lace and things. So 6 by 9 is my goal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces of cardboard. Oops. And some people have a nice sharp edged cutting tool. I'm going to go ahead. I did get a new rotary, I cannot talk tonight, a rotary blade. So I'm going to see if I can make that work. All right. I'm one who will measure twice, cut once. I think it's a better idea. So let me take the side that's more straight and line it up on my cutting mat here. So it's fairly straight. And it's just easier for me to use this. I don't have to think too hard. And what did I say? 9 by 6. 6 or 6.25. Let's do 6. 6 inches this way. Okay. And I can use the lines on the mat now. Just make sure I have the right place. 6 inches. Let's see if I can cut through this pretty easily. Okay, there's one. Let's do the next one. Line it up. Let me get the straighter side. Not that my cutting is going to be exactly straight, that's for sure. But hey, it's worth a shot. Okay, this line is 6. Move it up just a little tiny bit. I know you can't see this whole thing, but I promise as it gets a little smaller, as I cut off pieces, you'll be able to see more. If you don't have a rotary cutter, you can just use scissors, or you can use a different type of paper cutter. You just want to get it a fairly straight cut. And if you're using, like I am, 2 cereal boxes, you want to try to cut them the same size, or pretty close to it. Pretty close. Because I know that I'm going to cover this with fabric, it does not have to be exact. The fabric is going to cover a lot of that up. But at the same time, it will make it easier to work with if it's pretty close when I'm trying to glue it down. Okay, I'm just discarding those extra pieces. That's 3. And this is going to be number 4. And then I do need to cut the height as well. Sometimes I'll go ahead and cut a bunch of these ahead of time, just to save time. If I'm, you know, a little bit preoccupied with the kiddos or watching a show or a movie or something that I don't want to have to turn off to think too hard, sometimes I'll do this kind of activity ahead of time. Okay, these pieces, I'm probably not going to use all of them, but I'm going to set them aside for now because I'm not sure which kind of spine I'm going to end up with. Okay, I have 4 very tall 6-inch wide pieces. Now I need to cut them 9 inches tall. So let me line them up here. And, well, I'm going to do it the other way because I don't cut well sideways. I don't know what I'm thinking. So, has anybody had a good week? Anything exciting? I've had a very exciting week. Got to go to that amazing estate sale and found some amazing treasures. Yes, I did. I am blessed, blessed, blessed beyond measure with the items that I was able to purchase at that estate sale, including this beautiful mat that you're looking at right here. That was just purchased at the estate sale. I'm just going to go ahead now and use these to line it up. And again, I'm not worried about it being exact. I just need it to be pretty close. Whoops. Don't want it to slip too far though. All right, let me make sure I got that right. Yep. Snip that one off. And the next one. This is a little bit tedious, but it's so worth it. It's so satisfying to make your own covers. It's so cool. You can also use the actual cover from an old book. You can use the whole old book, make an altered book. But this is going to be a cardboard and fabric cover. And it is going to be sewn in with the pamphlet stitch. That's my favorite way to bind enough journal. There are many others, of course. That's 3. Just one more. And we'll be ready to start gluing. 9 inches. There's that line hiding from me. This rotary cutter seems like it's thicker right here than the one I had before. My old one had broken, so I'm kind of, oops, I didn't quite get it through there. Pretty excited to find a new one. All right, here we go. All right, I have 4 pieces this size. Now I'm going to take some of those spine pieces that I set aside. Or not spine, they were sides of boxes, sorry. I'm going to turn them into spines. So I want to cut them, let me see. Oops. What did I do with the other pieces? Hang on. I'm sure they're right here. There we go. And I'm going to use these 2, and I'm going to cut them, let's see, I think I'm going to do 2.5 inches. Like I said, I do tend to put a lot on all of my pages. So I find that I really do better giving myself extra room in my spine. I'm going to stand up to do this. I wish I had a desk that went up and down. Anybody have one of those? There's just certain tasks where you need to be standing up, and there's certain times when you just are done with sitting down. Okay, this is not cutting real well. I think I'm just not used to this new cutter more than anything, but hey, it at least scored it for me. There we go. Okay, get that thick part off of there. 9 inches right here. I want it to be the same height. I'm just going to go ahead and mark that with a pencil roughly. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut these two together. That's easy enough. It's such a short piece, I can do that. Now I need to measure 2.5 inches over. And let's see if I can just mark that on here and get these cut. I might be able to cut them together. I'm going to give it a try and see what happens. My old cutter was not working too well. It kept popping back out of, or back into, the protective portion. It does do you a lot of good when it's under that hood. You can't cut with it. So I guess I've used to have to keep my finger right on the button the whole time. Now that I'm not doing that, I have to get used to it again. Alrighty, I scored one and cut one. That'll work. I'm sure it is sharp enough to do that. I'm just not used to that new one yet. Alright, I try to remember to put my scraps into the garbage as I go, because if you don't, boy oh boy, it can get so messy so fast. Alright, this piece has like an extra piece of cardboard kind of stuck to it. Just kind of pull that off so that it won't have that extra lump right there. And again, if not all of it comes off, I'm not worried about that. Alrighty, let me put this away. Let me go ahead and grab my glue. I'm going to be using my Beacon 3-in-1 tonight. It's my go-to glue for when I have large areas or thick things to glue. Just stick a little tiny bit under that flap that's trying to come up. And because this one is kind of beat up, I'm going to make sure that I glue that one down. Okay, I'm going to glue all around the edge. Pretty generous here with the glue, because I do want to make sure it stays together well. Alrighty, and I'm going to glue this one right on top. I don't think it matters whether you're gluing front to back or back to front. It's all going to get covered anyway. I'm just trying to make sure at least one side is lined up real well. Looks like my video tried to get interrupted there. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if that's the internet tonight or if it's something else. We'll see. Alrighty, just check that one more time. Whoops, would help to turn the ruler around, wouldn't it? Yep, just a tiny bit too long right there. There we go. Just even it up a tad. Alright, I'm going to set that one side to dry. Now while that dries, I'm going to take 2 of these and I'm going to glue them together. And they're close enough for me. Just going to add some glue right around it. Generous enough to make sure it sticks. And the one tip I would give you is make sure you glue it fairly close to the edges, because you don't really want it peeling up on you. Okay? You can put a little bit in the center as well, but you really want to make sure you get those edges good. And if you're using this liquid glue, that gives you a little bit of a time. You can slide it around just a little bit and really try to match up at least one side before you press it down. Now I typically do use a bone folder to make sure that I get it really flattened out and it helps spread the glue. This is thick cardboard, so it doesn't do quite as much as it would if you were doing paper. Alrighty. Hey, it looks like somebody's joined us here, I think. Hi, Marty. How are you tonight? Thanks for jumping on. I'm just trying to put together a cover here. There's a few friends who have asked about different ways to create a cover. And one of my favorites is just plain old cereal boxes. And then I love covering with fabric when I have some fabric. You can also cover it with scrapbook paper, or people are creative. They use all kinds of things. I like to make my covers fairly sturdy, so I like to glue 2 layers of cereal box together. I've cut these roughly 6 inches by 9 inches, And the spines are 9 inches by about 2.5. I tend to stuff my journals, and I'm not a super big fan of the big gator mouth where they're really wide. So I try to give myself plenty of space on that spine. So now what I have is 2, if you will, double pieces of cardboard for the front and back cover, and I have a double piece for the spine. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, I think I'll just do it this way. I'm going to line them up on here, and what you're going to see is that I'm going to leave a gap between them. Not a big gap, but you do want to leave a little bit of a gap, and the reason for that is because once you create a book, you want it to be able to open and shut easily. Now, what I like to do, let me grab it here, I forgot to pull it out of the cabinet. I used to use packing tape or duct tape for this part, but I went ahead and bought some book repair binding tape off of Amazon. I don't remember the exact price. It was a little bit pricey, but there's a lot of it in here, so it's going to bind a lot of books. It's very sturdy. You can also use something called Tyvek tape. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So what I do is I just measure out just a tad longer than the actual cover. And I'm going to need several pieces that size because I want to do both sides. 2, let's do about 4 pieces. 3 and 4. And this particular tape has a backing on it. It's almost a fabric, I don't know if you can hear that, almost like a canvasy fabric on one side. And okay. So now what I want to do, like I said, is I want to leave a little bit of a gap in between the spine piece and the cover. It doesn't matter whether you start with the front or the back, because there really isn't a front or back yet. Not yet. Ooh. Marty, how do you like to put together your journals? Do you like to use cardboard or chipboard? Do you use any particular kind of tape? Have you made journals on your own, or maybe you've made altered books? All right, guys, there's an easy way to do this. It's called, as long as you're not on live, it comes right apart. But the minute you go live, oh boy, can't get anything to work, right? Okay, there we go. I'm just going to peel that right off. And it's very flexible. It's kind of like a fabric tape. It's very sturdy. Okay, I just want to make sure they're lined up pretty good. And I'm just going to set that right there on it. And very carefully, I'm going to press it down. I'm not sure if you can see in the camera that gap right through the tape. I think you can. I'll hold it up in just a minute. Use these tweezers to get the next piece off. Marty, where are you watching from? If you're here. And if you're watching this on replay later, drop it in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from and what are you working on while you're watching that replay. Are you making a book? A journal? Maybe you're crocheting? Who knows? There's so many ways to be creative. And boy, oh boy, we really need to be creative these days. Guys, it really is not that hard to peel this stuff. I don't know what I have done. Hello. Goodness gracious. All thumbs because I'm live, of course. Isn't that the way it always happens? Oh, there it is. Hello. Just can't seem to get the corners. Is there a trick to that too? I'd love to learn that trick. Alrighty. I'm actually going to turn this around because it's not quite as even as I'd like it to be. There we go. Okay, see that gap? It's not wide, just a little bit of a gap. It's going to make it so nice and easy to open and shut that journal. Okay, just put that tape right there on, nice and flat. Press it down. Okay. Peel it up off my tape and just fold it over. All right, I didn't get that too even. Let me see. Do I need to try to undo it? A little bit low. Nope, I'm not going to do it. I'd rather trim the book later. Once this stuff sticks down, guys, there's no going back. But it's easy enough to once the fabric is on, or right before I put the fabric on, if it's really, really off, I can always add an extra piece of tape or something there to even it up. I don't think it's going to be an issue because of the fabric. Now, I like the look of fabric, but I also like that it covers up any unevenness. Okay, same thing on this side. I like to do both sides so that my journal is good and sturdy. Hello. Now, see, that one came apart so nice and easy. And now we're back to Mr. Difficult. Hello, hello. Please come apart. Please, please come apart for me. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's see if I can get this a little bit better. All right, where's those tweezers? Does anybody else have stuff you're working with right beside you? Literally right beside you. And you turn your head once, and when you look back, it has disappeared. It has moved. I'm telling you, sometimes they just move on you. Couldn't possibly be me. It's got to be the tools on the table. They move on me. Sometimes they crawl under stuff or over stuff. Once in a while they disappear altogether. It's the craziest thing. I don't know how that happens. All right, guys, check this out. Ta-da! Look at that. It's been so easy. So easy. It is good and thick, so there's room for lots and lots of pages and lots of pockets and tags and ephemera on those pages. Some people don't like it that thick, and that's perfectly okay. You do what's good for you. Now, what I personally like to do, and this is just me, I like to create an inner spine. A hidden spine is what I call it. And what I do is I create this from slightly thinner pieces. You can see where this one folds. Well, that's not quite thick enough. I'll have to find another one. But anyway, I sew my signatures to a separate piece with the pamphlet stitch, and then once they are attached to this piece, I then glue this piece into the book itself. You don't have to do it that way. You can stitch them right through this spine, and that's totally fine too. There's so many different ways to do it. But this is the basic construction for the next journal. All right, like I said, I'd like to be able to cover this one with fabric. So let me move this folder full of papers out of the way. That is challenge number 2. Challenge number 1 is losing stuff. Challenge number 2 is keeping enough of an area cleared to be able to work. All right. I think this piece is plenty big. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Let me slide it down here. What I want enough fabric to more than go around this, because I want to be able to fold it over a little bit, okay? And this is not very thick fabric at all. Doesn't require thick fabric. But you can use all kinds of different fabrics. You can sew up a patchwork of fabric if you like. I just like the feel of it and the look of it. I think it gives you a nice base to work with. All right. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to trim these corners just a bit so that they're not quite so bulky. I'm going to cut them all the way off just a little bit like this. And one more. There we go. Anybody else have fabric scissors that you mark fabric only? That's not just for me. That is for my family. If I ever make the mistake of leaving these on my table, oh my goodness, if they were not marked, my grandkids and my husband would grab them to cut a piece of plastic or wood or who knows what, and that would be the end of the sewing scissors. So I try to keep them in the drawer, and I always make sure they're marked. And honestly, for myself as well, sometimes you can grab them because, well, that's just what we do. All right, so what I'm going to do to glue this on is I'm going to use Fabri-Tac. You don't have to use Fabri-Tac if you don't have it. The 3-in-1 will do, but Fabri-Tac's a little bit quicker. So let me start with the spine itself. And at this point, like I said, it doesn't matter whether it goes this way or that way. It's not really a book yet. But I'm just going to put a generous amount of glue on the spine right over top of that tape. to make sure I go right around the outside and a little bit in the middle, not too much because I'm going to try to, let's see, make sure I lay that down in the right place. Okay, there we go. And just give it a press. Give it a good little press. There we go. Let's see what's going on with this little tablet here. This morning, it wouldn't turn on for anything. It was the oddest thing. I don't know what was going on with it. Okay, now I like to do the spine first, and then I just kind of flip it up. Add glue to this side here, which again is not necessarily the front of the back. Now, if you have fabric that has a design that goes a particular direction, or there's a part of the fabric that you want to make sure is on your front cover, that's a whole different story. This particular fabric is not that way. It does not matter at all whether it is forward or backwards. You can press this fabric if it's real wrinkly before you put it on your book, if that's important to you. This was fairly flat. And this is just some fabric that was in a big bag from the thrift store. Nothing fancy. Washed it and trimmed it down to a manageable size piece. I like the fact that it's a little bit worn looking for this journal. But I have seen people use velvet, silk, cotton, canvas, just about anything can cover a book, cover a journal. Alrighty, just lay this one down too, just like this. And I like to glue it completely flat first, and then bend it after it's had a minute to sit. It grabs pretty quick. Give that a good rub. This side should be grabbed pretty good. Yep, very good. And there we go. Alrighty. Flip it over so you can see. Sometimes you can feel some of that glue almost like it's seeping through the fabric. Don't worry, it's going to dry clear. And I'm just pressing it away from the center towards the outside to make sure it's nice and flat. There we go. Alrighty. Next, I'm going to fold in all the edges to see if I can get them hidden a bit. And they are a bit messy, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me at all. One of the things I love about creating these junk journals is that they do not have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, a little bit of a tattered or a torn look kind of lends itself to the junk journal, the whole concept of a junk journal. Now, some people make junk journals just out of nothing but trash or recycled materials. I tend to make mine with a combination of recycled items and digiprints and papers, some scrapbook papers, things like that. So a combination of found and repurposed materials. I think it would be awesome to make a book with nothing but recycled. I haven't done that yet, but it's somewhere down the line. I think it's going to happen. I kind of collect things in folders for future journals by theme or by, you know, just ideas that may be swirling around in my crazy brain. So I have a file that has little file folders, and I just stick little things in there along my way. And then when I decide to start making one of those journals, I have kind of a head start instead of having to come up with everything that you need for that journal. It's kind of a head start. All right, it's getting a little bit sticky here. A little sticky, and I should not be doing this right on the mat. I should be doing it on my other mat. So let me make sure I wipe it right away. Once this glue gets on the cutting mats, it can really do a little bit of a number to it. So again, one of the problems with going live is you think you got everything you're supposed to get, and then you realize once you're started, you forgot something. Yeah, I forgot to put the other mat on top. Huh. Well, obviously it's not the first time glue's been on here. Probably not the last. Now watch this. gosh, that was so hard. It was right under it, guys. Sometimes, this is one of those silicone mats that has been very beat up. Nothing sticks to it. So when you use glue on it, you don't have to worry about it getting ruined. All right, I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to fold this up. I'm going to try to get these edges in just a little bit more. Grab some Fabri-Tac here, and just put a dot right here. I'm not worried again about bulk because I don't think it's going to be enough to make a difference. Just a little bit there, a little bit here, and then we will put glue along this whole edge. Now the trick is to hold this and put glue on at the same time. A little tricky, but I can do it. I can do it. I just know it. Alrighty. It's going to try and flip up and I know it. Okay, let's get one side and then the other. Alrighty. You just hold that for a minute. And you come over here. There we go. Slide it up a little bit. Try to keep that folded in. Do y'all have any secrets on how to get these nice corners done? Again, I'm not too worried because I am going to end up covering this with, I think some cardstock probably on the inside. I kind of like winging it, you know. I have a basic idea in my head, but I like the idea of just seeing where it takes you. And if it goes in a little different direction than I thought, I don't let that upset me at all. I embrace it and enjoy it. I love creating. It's relaxing to me. Now, going live is not something that I'm real comfortable with, but I'm getting a little bit better at it. Not stressing about it, even though technology is not my friend. And I usually have some kind of issue or another, like going sideways or upside down, or couldn't get to the right page, those kind of things. Hopefully it's working tonight. Hopefully if anybody's jumping on, you can see pretty good. I think it's fairly good in the frame, as they say. Hopefully the sound is good. And most importantly, hopefully you are creating something that brings you joy and brings you peace and healing from the stresses and the craziness of life. Y'all, we are living in a crazy, crazy time. And tomorrow, for those of you that might see this soon, tomorrow is 9/11, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I just cannot believe it's been 20 years. How in the world? Everybody knows exactly where they were and what they were doing on 9/11, right? It's one of those days. Like when JFK was shot. Everybody who was alive that time knows exactly what they were doing. Well, we won't talk about how old I am, but for JFK, I was in kindergarten at school. But for 9/11, I was teaching kindergarten. How about that? When they came and told us, of course, we weren't going to tell our little kindergartners what was going on, but it was very stressful. That's for sure. All right, I'm just letting this sit for a couple minutes. Let that glue grab well. And ta-da! My ugly fabric book. But I think it's going to really end up being really a nice cover. I really do. I love paisley, and this has that paisley feel to it. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you think it has possibilities? Okay, what I think I'm going to do, I didn't cut this part yet because I wasn't sure. I have massive amounts of, I don't know, what is this, cotton canvas or duck cloth or something like that. I'm not really a seamstress, but when my girls were little, I sewed a little bit. Wrong scissors. Let me get those fabric scissors. I'm just going to cut a piece here. I know you can rip it, but I'm cutting it. Maybe I'll rip this part. It's going to be too much. The nice thing is when you buy these bags of fabric at the thrift store, you can see, for the most part, you can see what kind of fabric's in there. And you can see when there's a great big piece of something you know you'll use, like this kind of fabric, okay? So yeah, that's way too wide. What I want to do is I want to cover just my spine and a little bit of the front and back with this. And I will probably fray it a little bit as well. So I'm going to say that I need a piece about here. Let me sit about there. Off of there. And it's definitely too long. Probably want to be able to fold it over a little bit. Cut it about here. And that is all I'm going to need for that. Oh, strings everywhere. That's okay. No worries. No worries at all. All right. So while I let this piece kind of dry, somewhat dry, I'm going to go ahead and grab my little tweezers. I'm going to move this mat out of the way, because for this one I do want to be on this mat. And this is curling up like crazy where I ripped it. I'm just going to pull a few threads out of the ends to give it that textured look. I don't know, what do you call it, frayed look. I don't always do this, but I do it often with a fabric that looks like it's going to fray somewhat anyway. You can use, is it called fray check? If you don't want it to fray at all, you could sew a little hem if you wanted it to be real neat. But in this case, nope, I'm just going with it. It wants to fray, so let's give it a fray. Is there another name for that? I don't know what it is. Really not sure. It always amazes me that when you rip the fabric, you get it pretty even. Boy, if you try to cut it and then do this, you're all over the place having to trim and retrim to get it to look about even. But this, I love this fabric. It's very easy to work with for this this little process. You don't have to fight with it to get them to come out. Of course, I cut it all the way around. That helps. No salvage edges. Salvage? It's called salvage edges on that. So does anybody have a favorite way to bind your books? Or maybe a way that you have always wanted to try and haven't done it yet? What have I been hearing about lately? Not accordion, but it has another name. I think it's kind of like accordion. Concertina? Yeah, concertina book. I'm not sure that I've fully grasped what that is, but I will have to look into it because I'm curious. So many things to be curious about with junk journaling, isn't there? I love that you can incorporate so many kinds of art in making a junk journal. All right, I should have double checked to see if this was still too wide, but that's okay. Let me try laying it on here. Yeah, that's kind of on the big side, but we'll see. All right, my thought is that I would like to add this part to the spine. Well, the spine and carries over, of course, onto the front and back to give it that kind of a look. What do you think? Do you like that? It does cover up a little bit of this fabric, but I think it also brings out the lighter areas in the fabric. And I think that looks nice. Let's see. Yeah, it's a little bit long in the back. But I don't want to cover up too much because I think I'm going to want to add some more to the front. So what I'm going to do, this is, I guess, a cheating way or something, is I'm just going to pull out a few more threads on this side and then give it a little haircut, a little trim. Because I don't need it a lot smaller, but I just need it a little bit smaller. And this is coming out pretty easy. Of course, I say that and I'll watch it'll knot up. That would be a shame. I hope not, but maybe. So has anybody ever gone to an estate sale? My gosh, I don't know if you saw the video or my post. I don't mean to be bragging. I am so blessed. I cannot believe this estate sale. This family just really needed to move the things out so they could get back home where they live up north. We're in South Carolina here. And so they were just letting it go for very, very inexpensive prices. and they had a ton of scrapbook supplies. A lot of it was things that I would not use for junk journals, but boy, it was just like a kid in a candy store, as they say. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this over and give it a little trim because this is too much. But I'm trying to make it a little shorter. I'm going to hold it over the trash can, so I'll be right back. Anyway, I'm looking through these punches, and of course, we all know in the junk journal world that one of the most popular, hard to find punches, if you don't already own one, is what they call the whale tail punch, to create little tabs to go on the ends of pages and journaling cards and whatnot. Well, I did not have one. It was kind of on my wish list, but not something I expected to really find. Lo and behold, there was one at this sale. Oh my goodness. I looked at it, y'all. I looked at it again, and I thought, is this really? I mean, it was hard to believe that it was actually what I was seeing. Was I actually seeing what I saw? Yes, it was. You can bet that went into my pile real fast. It sure did. All right, let's see. Is that made it a little bit smaller? I think that's going to work just fine. Yeah, I like that. That's a good amount. Alrighty. And I think I'm going to end up using this part right here as the front. The one thing you do want to do, and sometimes I forget to do this, because now all of a sudden it's going to matter if it's straight or not. You really want to check this by kind of rolling it under with your fingers, I guess, and making sure that you fold your book up and measure, because it looks like it's about not quite 2 inches before you get to the frayed part up here. But yeah, down here, I'm off by it. To me, enough where it was going to bug me. I don't need it to be exact, but I don't want it to bug me. Does that make sense? All right, let me double check that. Still about 2. Yeah, just a scotch more. Just a scotch. All right, now the trick is trying to get this to glue down without moving it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it with one hand. There's probably a better way to do this, but I'm not going to do a better way. I'm just going to do it this way. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put glue up and down one side and just press that down. So you can probably see on the camera where some of that glue is kind of coming through. Not to worry, it's going to dry perfectly clear. Once again, before it catches completely, I just want to double check it. Make sure it looks pretty straight, and it does. It looks good to me. So now I flip the book around. Now I feel like I can fold it up and go ahead and put the glue right on the book, because I'm not as worried about it being crooked, because hopefully I got a good straight start. Because I'm going to do a hidden spine, I'm going to go ahead and sew this on. If I were, well, you could sew it right on and then just cover your strings with this piece of fabric if you wanted them covered. There's so many different ways to do it. I find it a little bit cumbersome to try to sew the signatures in to the full cover. I find it a bit easier, at least for me, to sew them to another piece of cardboard and then glue that cardboard in. And it seems to hold it quite well. So I've been happy with it so far. We'll see. I haven't had trouble with it yet. As they say, knock on wood. All right, now I'm getting sticky again. Again, I know you can see all those little glue lines, but it is going to dry perfectly clear. Then none of those will show up. And look, I even have the right mat down. Hooray. But let me get a little bit of that glue off my fingers. This is where I probably should have put on some gloves. But you know, who's got time for that, right? If you use a baby wipe right away, it peels it off pretty quickly. Just depends on what kind of adhesive you're using. Alrighty. Go paper towel. Another little trick that I do, and I'm pretty sure everybody would already know it, but just in case, because I have this silicone, whatever it's called, mat, I just fold that mat over top of the part that's glued, and I can press down all I want without getting it on my hands. I should have done this sooner, right? Press it down real good. You can even like rub it with it. And it does not stick to the silicone mat, but it makes sure that you get it really glued down. All right, I'm gonna flip it back this way, and now I'm gonna sew them. No, I'm not sewing. I'm gonna glue them this way. I will do some sewing inside the journal, but I'm not sewing the cover. There's so many beautiful ways you can embellish covers. I sometimes, typically I'll sew around some pieces that maybe are gonna go on a page or on a cover, but not the cover itself. All right, I'm gonna use that mat this time. I have just abused this poor mat to pieces. My second one, but in a lot of years. So they really are worthwhile. The most frustrating part is that the ends get real curled up. So sometimes after a few years, I just snip them off and they bother me. Okay. One more section and we will have a glued on cover. Woohoo! Then I need to think about what do I want to do to the inside and what kind of closure do I want. Now, when I first started making junk journals, I would always forget about the darn closure until the whole journal was made, and then it'd be like, oh, I probably need something to hold it shut. And at that point, it was usually too hard to do something like add a grommet or an eye to thread ribbon through. So I would often just end up tying a piece of silk or something around the whole book. And that's okay, you can do that. But if you want it to be part of the book, I guess you could call it, then you're going to want to do that next before you put the inside pages. All right, that does need to sit a bit. On the outside, you can still see those lines right now. And I didn't get enough glue right in the middle, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's fine. It is fine. It's not going to come off. And again, it's a junk journal. All right. At this point, I'm beginning to see that I like the fray on this one end. I did not glue under the fray, by the way. I just kind of like to keep that loose. This is going to be my front cover, and I like the look of it. I don't know if I'm going to end up using this card that I had found. If I do, I'm sure that I will add some other elements along with that, but it may end up having this on the cover. I'm just not sure. I like that little picture. It's pretty. Alrighty, while we wait for that to dry, I may just do book pages on the inside. That's something I've done a couple times lately. Let me grab some book pages over here. And again, just to be a time saver, I have a container. Let me see if you can see that. See if I can put it in frame, as they say. It's one of those plastic containers, and in this I have lots of, I call it my book page bin. It is book pages of different sizes. I think there used to be some music pages in here, but I'm not sure I have music pages. I think these are all just book pages that are already out of the books. There's a few dictionary pages, and then in the back I have some graph papers and dotted papers. These are all I call them the white papers, but of course they're ivory or cream colored papers in reality. These are not my tea stain papers, those are in a separate folder, but these are ones that I don't need to stain. I'm happy with the color that they are, and they're just ready to pull out to use for whatever it is I'm looking for. So I'm gonna grab a couple of pieces of book page and figure out if I like that or not. Let's see, I think these are too small. Yeah, those are too small, but I have plenty of big ones. Let's see. You know, when you are tearing up a book, oftentimes on the very front page, there's a title. This was The Wedding Wagon, and there's a beautiful graphic with it. And I just didn't have the heart to leave that behind. So what I might do is I might cut that off and somehow use this. I just think that's a really sweet picture. I guess that's a doctor bag, so I don't know if that goes exactly good with a fall. Look at this with the boots. Isn't that cute? This one has boots. anytime I have pictures that are, or graphics that are particularly meaningful or that I really like, I try to save those intact to see where I might use them. There's quite a few of them in here. I don't have them in a separate folder. I've just kind of started tucking them into one spot. Let's see if I have a couple more. I don't know. Don't really see any that look right. That's okay though. Not too worried about it. Alrighty, let's see. How about this? Oh my goodness, this is cute. This one says Chapter 1 and there's a pie. What do you think? Is that a little silly? I think it might be kind of fun to use that on the inside of the cover. Of course, there may end up being some pockets or something else on there as well. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Look at that pie. Oh, I may just have to do that. Now, I don't want the title of this particular book because it's not going to go with what I'm doing here. All right. Where did I put my small cutter? Oh, goodness. The struggle is real, y'all. The struggle is real. This time it didn't walk away. I moved it. I know I did. Here it is. All right. I'm just going to see about this. This is just too perfect. See, I'm already getting into decorating and I'm supposed to be just making the construction right now. All right. I don't know if I want to fussy cut it or just cut some of this off. I think it's going to be cute. Cute, cute, cute. It's already the right size that way. Yep. And then, let's see. Gosh, they all have pies on them. It's a pie book. Nope. There's just not a lot of pages left from this book, I don't think. Let's see. I don't know if y'all know this, but when you are getting ready to cut up a book, be careful. Pay a little bit of attention to what the text says. You don't want to be making something like a pretty fall journal and the text is not real uplifting, shall we say. You want to be a little bit careful what you're putting in a journal, depending on what is important to you. For me, it's pretty important not to have it too, I don't know. That's going to have to be a pocket right there. It's just going to have to be. Oh my goodness. This is still not quite the right size, I don't think, but it might be okay. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that off for a little bit because, just thinking about it, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to get my signatures ready and put them in and then put in my inside cover pages. But I definitely am considering using this one as part of a pocket. So in order to not lose that, I'm going to just put it right here with a paper clip to remind myself, hey, you might want to use this. Because otherwise, I might put it somewhere and forget where it is. All right, I'm going to set this part aside because it really does need to dry well overnight, but it is ready to start my journal. I hope you got a little something from this if you've never done it before. And if you have, let me know in the comments. Teach me your ways. Share with one another and make better journals together. God bless. Have a wonderful evening and a safe weekend, and I will see you later. Bye.